All right, it's 2 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get kicked off here. Welcome to the Nashville Sports Council's first virtual event of 2020, Working in Sports Then and Now. My name is Robert Rosario. I'm the VP of Development for the Sports Council, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Before I introduce our panelists, I'd like to remind everyone that you can join our Young Professionals group and the Sports Council by visiting nashvillesports.com. There you'll find, as a member, a lot of volunteer opportunities and future networking opportunities. It's a great deal. Hopefully you'll check that out. Once again, nashvillesports.com. So let's get started. And quick tip, if you look up in the right-hand corner, if you put your screen in speaker mode, you'll see who's talking. Might make it a little easier to kind of see who's involved with this. So let's get started by introducing today's panelists. Our first panelist is a former country music artist, very Nashville story there, college basketball player, and current community marketing and events coordinator at Nashville Soccer Club. Please welcome Becca Crisp. Welcome, Becca.
Hey, guys.
Our next panelist is a seasoned vet in the minor league baseball circuit and is consistently bringing fresh ideas to First Horizon Ballpark. Please welcome Taylor Fisher, Director of Sales at the Nashville Sounds. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our next speaker started off as an intern with the Nashville Predators and is now a key member of their front office staffs. Thanks for joining us, Daniela Milroy, Corporate Partnership Account Coordinator at the Nashville Predators.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And finally, our next speaker is a graduate of UT Knoxville, has previous experience with the Preds and Atlanta Falcons, and is in his third season with the Tennessee Titans as Sales Suite Coordinator. Please welcome Brad Putsch to today's panel.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Robert.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and kick off with the first question. We still got a few more people I see rolling in here, I also want to mention, though, before we do that, if anybody here wants to submit any questions, you can do that on Twitter by tweeting us at Nashville Sports. So we'll go ahead and kick off with a few of the pre-selected questions we have. Becca, let's get started with you. When was it you knew you had a calling in the sports industry? And then we'll go through the rest of the group. But Becca, if you want to kind of give us what that looked like, how did you wind up working in sports?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is a little different, and those terms are used very loosely as a country music artist. Actually, we went to go play college basketball in Texas and decided I didn't want to anymore. So I joined a band and kind of did some things while I was in undergrad, and then eventually became a teacher coach. From there, I decided to come up here to Belmont for grad school and kind of reroute myself into a more business plan instead of just the coaching career, which it was a lot of fun, just decided it wasn't for me anymore. And sports was always just something that was very important in my life. So I love sports and I love entertainment most of all. And I definitely look at sports as an entertainment field rather than just the sports industry. So it just was the easiest way for me to connect my passion for music with my background with sports. So it's kind of how I ended up here.
Awesome. And then Taylor, you want to give us a quick update? What was your kind of calling? How did you wind up working in sports?
Sure, yeah. Similar to Becca, sports have always been a part of my life. I played basketball and soccer growing up. Diehard Boston sports fan. I'm from just north of Boston. And so the first team I worked for was a team called the North Shore Navigators, which is just north of Boston. It's a summer collegiate baseball team. And the first game working there, opening night, we were projecting to have like 1,000 fans there, which would have been a big night for this team. I was a game day intern, had to do a little bit of everything, sell tickets, work in the fun zone, concession stand, all that. And we ended up having 2,300 fans there, and that was like a lot for that ballpark, and it was total mayhem. But it was like controlled chaos. And I went home that night and I told my parents, I want to work in baseball for the rest of my life. And they were like, pump the brakes a little bit. It's one game. And I was like, no, I know. And they're like, okay, that's good. So that's kind of where it all started.
Awesome. Yeah, that's certainly one way to do it. Daniela, how about you? How did you start out as an intern? How did you get involved in?
Yeah, absolutely. Also very similar to them my entire life. I've been involved in sports. my younger brother grew up playing hockey, so I immediately had a big passion for hockey. My family was season ticket members of our AHL team here in Rockford, Illinois, where I grew up. So I kind of just grew up around sports, and my mom owned a dance studio at our local ice rink here. So I was always around sports and just kind of grew up with it. So I knew I had a passion for it, and I was always told, do what you love, and I love sports. So here we are today.
Okay, awesome. And Brad, how about you? How did you wind up in sports?
Yeah, so I really didn't take a conventional route to breaking in. I majored in journalism at UT and had my first sales experience summer leading into my senior year with a company called Around Campus. What we were doing is just connecting local businesses to university students and just kind of targeting them and trying to get them attracted to their business. Loved it, had a lot of success with it, and connected with an alumni from my fraternity, Tim Volk, who is now the GM with the Tennessee Smokies. And he said, I'm putting together an inside sales staff, and I'd love to hire you if I can bring you on. Let's stay in touch. Worked out and got on with there and loved it and was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So that's how I got started.
Great. And Brad, that's an excellent segue into our next question. I know in my professional career, networking has always been an integral part of getting jobs, making new connections here in Nashville. So I want to start with you again on that one, Brad. How important has networking been to you? Have you made a lot of connections in the sports industry through that practice, and how does it help you along your journey now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So networking, I figured out very early on in this industry is extremely important. A connection of mine with the Smokies, a guy named Craig Jenkins, who's been a big mentor for me along the way of my career, along with Tim. Those guys put me in touch with Marty Mulford over with the Preds, and that's how I was able to get on with him through a connection that they had to Marty. So it kind of went from there. And then currently, I mean, I'm still always looking for active ways to network. LinkedIn is a great resource for that. Obviously, being a part of this organization with the Sports Council is a great opportunity as well, just to meet other like-minded people and people that have similar interests. And you never know where it can go from there. So
awesome. Well, thanks for that plug, Brad. Daniela, how about you? How has networking impacted your professional career and getting plugged in here in Nashville?
Yeah, I would also agree with Brad. Networking is so important. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for networking. I stayed in contact with everybody I met throughout college and did a lot of volunteering in college and just made it a point to make sure that they knew who I was and I knew who they were. And I kept in contact with them. I would reach out to them even, right after the event and say, it was so great to meet you. I'd love to just stay in contact. So yeah, networking is probably the most important thing. And I mean, even just now with the Predators, I meet so many people at our hockey games and events and everything. So it's important to always, for me, throw out a business card and just to stay in contact with everybody. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Brad obviously kind of seemed to do a lot of that in person. You were doing it through reaching out, maybe I'm assuming through email, LinkedIn, those kind of things, which obviously those tools are huge in today's day and time. So that's good to hear. Taylor, how about you? What's your networking experience look like?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll echo what everyone else says. Definitely crucial to kind of advancing your career, whether it's here in Nashville. I think the beautiful thing about being in Nashville is all of the sports teams in Nashville, like we're all networking and sharing ideas. We have our own little like small knit community, but on like the larger scale looking like to advancing our careers, for me, like on LinkedIn, if you work in sports, I add you on LinkedIn. Like, I don't care what your title, your position, whatever. You never know when you may run into that person again down the road or when your paths may cross again. And then another one, I've met a lot of really important sports connections through Twitter. There's a lot of really smart people sharing ideas on Twitter as well. So that's a big connection for me. And I think in general, the sports world, once you get into it, it's so closely knit that across all sports, and you don't know who knows who, and you'd be surprised what connections can get you. I feel like Brad said about Marty Mulford, like different sports, but that's a connection down the road too. So very, very important.
Awesome. And to round it up, Becca, how about you? Have you had a lot of experience with networking, and what's that look like? Especially, I guess, in your case, coming from out of the industry into the industry, how did you maximize your networking abilities?
Yeah, so definitely agree with everything they've said. To me, networking is the most important thing in the industry. I, I know I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for just talking and being around people all the time. But for me, especially, it's been huge. Because not only within the sports industry, but my job is essentially to be the liaison between the entertainment industry here in Nashville and the club. So while I'm in, the Nashville Sports Council, it's been awesome and great to meet all the sports people. I'm also in a group called Solid, which is a big, music. I call it the music fraternity here in town, just to make sure I'm staying connected to all those people. And because everybody wants to connect sports and music together here in this town and kind of make it one. So it's been a lot of fun networking with all those people and just staying connected. And, I feel like a lot of the skills that I have can definitely transition from any field. So I can go from sports to music or whatever, and all the departments. So networking is, to me, the key. Like, just be personable and, be genuine, and people like you, and, they're willing to stick your neck out a little bit for you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. Great answers, everybody. And like you mentioned, there are obviously different ways to, I have a little alarm going off here. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Can you guys hear that? Okay. Hold on one sec, guys. I don't know if I can mute myself here. I'm going to ask the next question, and I'm going to mute myself to figure out here. So, what are some of the places you went to look in jobs? And we'll start with you, Becca. Did you do it online? Were you in person? What did that look like?
I definitely went to Teamwork online just to cruise around and look for internships and that kind of stuff while I was in grad school. But just using the people around me. I went to grad school at Belmont, and they're huge into internships and getting out there and networking and making us reach out to people all over the United States doing these big projects. So just making sure I was, again, networking and connecting with different people, and then them suggesting, different things to get into. That's kind of how I landed at Nashville Soccer Club.
Awesome. And Taylor, how did you, what places did you go looking for work?
Yeah, I think early on in someone's career, like if you're looking to break in, like Teamwork Online is a great option. Like Becca said, for baseball people, there's a website, pbeo.com, which stands for Professional Baseball Employment Opportunities. So most baseball jobs are posted there as well. But I think it gets to a certain point in your career where networking becomes so important, where you've advanced your career to a certain point, and then those connections that you've built over the years from reaching out to other teams, those are the ones that really pay off for the bigger jumps in your career, I would say.
Awesome. And Daniela, how about yourself? Where did you go looking for work in the sports industry?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that everybody else already said. Teamwork Online was definitely my best friend when I was in college and, starting to look for a job. So definitely Teamwork Online. I would check that every morning when I woke up, and I would apply for internships and jobs that I was interested in. Also LinkedIn, I use that as a really important tool. I would connect with people in the industry and just make sure that I was reaching out and trying to get to know other people. My college professors were also really, really helpful. They wanted to make sure that, we felt comfortable going out and reaching out to people, and that we were able to meet people in the sports industry. So I stayed in contact with all of my college professors, and they were a really big help. And as almost everybody else has mentioned, Marty Mulford, he is also a very good guy to know. I also used him to land a job.
Hey guys, this is Aldo Amato with the National Sports Council. I'll be stepping in while Robert's got all the technical difficulties over there. Brad, if you want to round out that question, what are some of the places that you looked when looking for a job in sports, and what are some of the helpful tools right now that people on this call can look for sports?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of tie everything together, everyone's had really good insight and advice on really how to break in and where to look. I think teamwork is big at the beginning. I would lean on maybe even your alumni network. See if anyone from your school is working in sports currently. Which wherever that may be, all over. Reach out to them, get a little insight on how they broke in and see how they may be able to help you. How I got onto Legends and the Atlanta Falcons project when they were building a new stadium was actually through LinkedIn. And this would have been, I guess, 2016, early 2016. And I saw, wasn't even connected with the gentleman that became to be my boss, Dustin Vicari, but connection of mine, liked a post that he had about working in sports. If you have over 3 years of experience and are looking to be a part of this project, basically send me your resume and let's see if it's a fit. And I looked at that post. I was like, this guy's ready to move. I gotta get this together if I still want to pursue the NFL, which is what I had always wanted to do. So next day we set up a call, and I just remember at the time I was thinking, I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe I just got a job interview off of LinkedIn. But yeah, I think as you get further along in your career, just continue to network, use those resources, use those networks, and just take it from there however best you can.
Awesome. And I think I'm back, guys. I apologize. That happens every blue moon. And of course, it happens during this Zoom call here. So we're just going to keep rolling along. Thank you guys for your patience with that and great answers. And again, I noticed networking keeps coming up, staying consistent with it. And I think those are the things that are going to get you a job in the sports industry if that's your passion. So we're going to move along and kind of just look to, I'm going to ask some specific questions to some of the panelists here. So let's start with you, Daniela. So you kind of had maybe a more of a traditional journey in sports, starting out as an intern with the Preds and then transitioning into a full-time role. How did your experience as an intern help you to prepare for that full-time role? Do you think that that's something that's necessary or very important to do to work in sports, at least from your perspective? And would you recommend that route to some of the others people listening today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did intern with the Nashville Predators. I interned in guest experience, and it was the best internship I could have ever imagined. I learned basic business practices as well as insider information on what it's like to work in the sports industry. Although I studied sport management and I also worked for Flagler College Athletics, my internship with the Predators was the best learning opportunity to experience everything on the inside world of sports. I took it as a blessing that the Predators were so open and wanted us to get involved and network and shadow and work as many events as possible. So I did. I've shadowed and volunteered for almost everything I could, also including a backstage concert for Justin Timberlake. That was definitely a bonus. But yeah, so my internship was just absolutely amazing. I knew right then and there, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I love hockey. The Predators are such a great organization. So yeah, I just tried to get to know everybody I could and knew I was about to graduate college and just tried to stay in contact with everyone. But yeah, I would 100% recommend for anybody interested in working in the sports industry, acquire an internship if you can, see if you enjoy it. Cause some people don't, it might not be for you. But yeah, definitely try to get an internship, shadow, and do everything that you can possible to be remembered.
And is that common with the Preds? Are a lot of folks, interns, getting a job or other routes that they get in there?
Absolutely. So in my department and guest experience, I interned with 2 people. So 2 of us ended up getting jobs within the next couple months. A lot of our staff did intern, so it's just a really, really cool thing to see. A lot of interns are now full-time. So yeah.
Awesome. Taylor, if you're looking to work in the minors, do you need to be prepared to wear numerous hats? Do you have a lot of roles in the job? How has that helped your development? What does that look like working in minor league baseball?
Yeah, definitely for minor league baseball. I think it goes for sports in general because there's so many people that want work in sports. So you have to be willing to do a little bit of everything to continue to stand out and show that work ethic. But definitely in minor league baseball, obviously our staffs are a lot smaller. The first team I worked for probably had 15 people on staff, whereas like here were the Sounds were double or triple that. So on a smaller market team, you need to do everything. So whether it's doing tarp pulls or selling or 50-50 raffle tickets, or I've been the mascot more times than I can count. Not here in Nashville. I've been a country legends racer in Nashville, but I've been the mascot more times than I would care to admit. You just have to be willing to do so much more outside of what your actual job description is, to continue to stand out, show that you really want to work in sports. Because I think all of us that work in sports know that there's so many people behind us that would want our job, whether they work in sports now or not. So it's really important.
Yeah, and that's a good point to be. It definitely is an in-demand industry before all, kind of the current circumstance, and hopefully will be once we get back up and running. Becca, I mean, what does the soccer industry look like today? Is it growing? What's some of the new insights that you can give us? And is now a good time for folks to look, specifically in soccer for jobs? What is that industry looking like right now?
Yeah, well, for me, it's crazy to me that I landed in soccer. I grew up in Texas, so football was automatically the route that I thought I would end up taking. So soccer has been great. I mean, it's growing. It's a super sport right now. It's definitely on the rise as far as everything goes. And the hype around it all, especially with Austin's team coming up and Matthew McConaughey jumping on and owning that team, it's just getting a lot of publicity right now. But it's crazy to think of where soccer was 20 years ago and where it is now. I can only imagine within the next 5 or 10 years where it's going to be. I mean, even if you look at the Preds, like 20 years ago, people were like, oh, the Preds. And now they're like, oh, the Preds. Like, if you're in Nashville, you want to go to a Preds game, right? So hopefully in the next few years, that's where Nashville SC will be, and just the sport of soccer. It's continuing to grow. More and more kids are playing it. And I think we're going to see a big trend switch when it comes to soccer just in the United States.
Awesome. Brad, so I see here you majored in journalism at UT Knoxville. So how did you get your start working in the office? Was that were you wanting to go more the journalistic route and then landed in the kind of role you were in now? What was the idea behind journalism, and how did that transfer into what you do now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question, because that's not really the most conventional way. Similarly to how Daniela was saying earlier, internships are very helpful for figuring out whether this is or isn't something that you want to pursue long term. So through attending UT, I had an opportunity to have a couple different internships and a lot of experience. Worked in radio for the campus station there. Got to interview Pat Summitt, Bruce Pearl, all that great stuff. It was excellent. But I figured out through these internships that I had a lot more on-hands experience in the summer, that it wasn't going to be the route for me. And I began to develop more of an interest in the business aspect. And then I was at an internship fair heading into my senior year and saw a sign from a company called Around Campus, and they had a couple different sports teams logos on it. I can't even remember who it was. I think it was maybe like the Florida Panthers and the Pacers. We've placed people with these teams before. So I said, this would be interesting. I think I'm wanting to work on the team side, and hit it off with the gentleman that was there, and really enjoyed my internship. And then from there, got connected with Tim over with the Smokies, and just fell in love with it. And like Taylor said, wore a bunch of different hats, mascot, tarp pulls, a lot of similar relatable stories there. But no, it was great. And I was able to figure out that this is the path for me, and something I want to do. So.
Yeah. And one thing I'm kind of noticing, and I mean, even in my own career, it's, I think we maybe have an idea of what working in sports looks like or what it can be, but that may not be how you get in the door. And I think it's kind of one of those things where, it's maybe you want to be, the president of the Titans, but you got to start out doing, XYZ job and be willing to do that from everything. And I think almost everybody here has shared, hey, I started doing this, I'm now doing this, or I'm doing 10 of these things currently at the same time. So that's interesting to hear. So it sounds like, one piece of advice maybe is don't get so bogged down in the specific role, especially if you're looking at an entry-level position, if your true passion is working in sports. So Becca and Daniela, obviously you guys have the uniqueness of being a woman in sports. I'm sure that's a growing thing, but maybe hasn't always been that way. So what do you think the opportunities are there for women in sports? What does that look like being a woman in sports? And maybe any advice you would have for women that are interested in working in sports?
I say go for it. I mean, I feel like, especially at the soccer club, a good bit of our senior leadership staff are women. So it's definitely there for us, and there's a more active role being played by women in sport, and I think it's out there to grab it. You know, a lot of women aren't afraid of the demanding schedules as they used to be, and you know, there's help we can get now if we have kids or whatever. So it's just go for it. If you want to do it, just give it a try. So I mean, yeah, especially at Nashville SC, I can't speak about the other clubs, but I know we are very focused on empowering the females in our office, and you know, the senior leadership that are there serving as mentors to us to help us, you know, accelerate our career or get our foot in another door or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Daniela?
I agree. Yeah, I would definitely agree with everything that Becca said. There are several females that work for the Nashville Predators, and that's in both entry level and management positions. In fact, my entire sponsorship service team, we are a group of 7 females. So that kind of proves that, yeah, we can definitely do it. So if you're a female and you want to get into sports, I would say definitely go for it. There's several opportunities, and we can definitely do it. So get to know as many people, or if you're a female and interested in working in sports right now, feel free to reach out to me. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we obviously can't do a virtual Zoom meeting for obvious reasons without bringing up COVID, which is why we're doing this virtually and not in person. So sports will play a major role in the post-COVID recovery, both locally, nationally, and abroad. What's the role that sports is going to play as we get back to normal life? And anybody feel free to jump in.
I'll go ahead. I would say absolutely 100%. People rely on sports to feel better and to get their mind off of everyday lives. Right now, it's like we want something to, you know, get our mind off what's going on in the world right now. I often think back to our first hockey game after the tornadoes in Nashville, and it was great to see everybody come back to Bridgestone Arena and just kind of be together there. Hundreds of fans brought donation items, and I remember I was standing on the concourse and I watched hundreds of people just rush to purchase our Smashville Strong gear. So that gear went towards tornado relief, and everybody was just so excited to step on board and help out those who were impacted. Shortly after the tornadoes, I went on the team trip to Dallas, and at the Stars Stadium at their concession stands. So that was just really cool to see, is that in Dallas, the Oregon sports was coming together. So to bring that all back to the pandemic and everything, yeah, I definitely know that sports play a really big impact in everybody's lives, and we're going to do it together and hopefully look to our hockey players and other athletes in Nashville to help get us through it and get back to sports and being at Bridgestone and everywhere else soon. So
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Taylor, what do you think? What role is sports going to play in a post-COVID world there?
Yeah, definitely people are just excited to do anything at this point, it seems like. So I know here we started selling these private batting practices just last week, and it has just taken off. Like, I think we could have promoted anything and it would have just sold like crazy.
Yeah.
So people are reaching out, they call, or we call them, and they're like, yeah, whatever it takes. I just want to do anything. I want to get out of the house. I want to do something with my family or with my company or anything. So it's been really refreshing to actually have something to promote over here finally, and just to hear how excited people are to get out of the house and support us.
Awesome. And Brad, how about yourself? What role, maybe even specifically look at the Titans, what role do you see sports playing in the post-COVID world?
Sure, absolutely. So we're still preparing to welcome fans back to our building at some point, hopefully this fall. So we're still navigating that as we move forward, and hope to have some positive developments in that route soon. But I mean, I think, you know, just kind of talking about everything that we just discussed with each team, you know, each time that we're able to, whenever we are able to open up the doors for each of our buildings, it's going to be a really, really special opportunity and special experience to welcome everybody back for that first kind of big event. And I think also you're going to have people that maybe were not as interested in using sports as an entertainment outlet or as a personal outlet, whatever that may be more inclined to do that now, because similar to what you were saying at the beginning of this, Robert, we can't get together in person because of, the current situation that we are all in. But I think to that point, people are just going to be excited to get around each other and have that opportunity going forward. I think sports is going to be huge for that.
Yeah, totally agree. Becca, any insights from your perspective?
Yeah, I totally agree with them. I think people are just ready to get out and do things. I mean, I do think we'll have the population that's a little nervous to still come out and do things, but I think they'll, have FOMO and be ready to hang out with everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm sure everybody and all your clubs and teams are working on safety and all those measures, but yeah, there's definitely some pent up demand there. People are gonna rush to it when they do feel safe doing it. Okay, we're going to switch a little bit. We're going to transition to some user questions, some audience questions. So first one we have here, and we'll do this this will be for the full panel here. What advice would you give someone looking to make a pivot in the sports industry? So maybe I'm assuming they mean if you work in another industry, what would be maybe a good way to get in the door? Becca, we'll start with you on that one.
I mean, I definitely think you can do it. It's going to be maybe a little bit more challenging for you if you don't have those connections, but just continue to reach out those connections. Get on LinkedIn, ask people for coffees, send emails, informational emails to figure out where you may fit. I know internships are great, and there's people that are trying to pivot may not be able to get internships because they're not getting credit. Some organizations take volunteers, if there's anything, or street team, just something to get your name out there, your face in front of people. Again, networking. It's all about networking. I think it's key. If you're open to it, grad school, I think it's a great opportunity. I mentioned Belmont earlier. I loved my time at Belmont. Would definitely recommend it. Just because all the connections we were built here in Nashville. I chose it over programs in Dallas in that area just because of the proximity of all the clubs. I knew that I could work game day staff with the Titans and have an internship with the Nashville SC while teaching classes at Belmont, when it'd all be within a 10-minute drive. So it's just, the amount of connections you can make here in Nashville are unbelievable within the pro sports community. So definitely just go for it and reach out and make those connections right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, again, networking, I think, plays a huge role. It's just it's really the most unique way you have to differentiate yourself from the hordes of people that apply online. Taylor, any thoughts on that? Have you had any people over there at the Sounds that have maybe transitioned from out of sports into the Sounds, what that looks like for you guys?
Yeah, that I am one of those examples. When I graduated college, I was actually selling electrical products for 2 years before I got into sports, and kind of similar to what Becca was saying, as kind of juggling a couple different roles. As I was selling electrical products, I had a baseball internship working game days for free, and then I was also getting my master's degree at the same time. So, and then when it came time to make that transition, I think what's important is you need to know you have to be willing to start at the bottom. So I was like making really good money before I started working in baseball. And then my first job in baseball, I took a 70% pay cut for my first job. And that's just the nature of the business. And we could argue about what people in sports should be paid, but you have to be willing to take that risk if you want to get your foot in the door and then work your way up. And also, you can't pigeonhole yourself to like where you're willing to move to. Like, you need to be willing to move wherever. I've worked for 4 different teams in 4 different states, and in 2 of the states I didn't know a single person. And like, you have to be willing to like go outside your boundaries and what you're comfortable doing to be able to open as many doors as possible to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, no, I 2 excellent points there. I mean, obviously the moving thing, which I don't think anybody's mentioned, but yeah, if you really want to be tied down in Nashville, well, we only have a handful of teams, but there's hundreds, thousands of teams in all sports, all throughout the country. So yeah, moving is a big point, and you might have to take a pay cut early on. Taylor, Daniela, any thoughts from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, on top of everything that they said, I would just say, yeah, keep networking if possible. And once sports come back, I would try to shadow. Go in and work a full day, a game day. Get in the office with us at 8 a.m. and, work during the office day and then work a game and leave the arena at, 11:30 at night and see if is that something that I really want to do. They are long days, but personally, I love it. I think the long game day and event days are the best part of the job, just to see everything kind of go into action. But yeah, I would say just reach out. And if it's really something you want to do, just do as much as possible. Try to get to know others and attend as many sporting events as you can. And, reach out, stop at the fan information desk, see if they need any help with anything or handing out programs or something along those lines. So yeah, I would just say anything like that. And then also if you are in Nashville, I'd say join the National Sports Council. And once we have events back, there's lots to volunteer for. So that would be a good way.
Absolutely. We'll keep taking the plugs there. Certainly, yeah, we are a membership organization. We do networking events in normal times in person. And if you're going to meet a lot of folks in sports. Brad, what have you seen people at the Titans pivot into sports that maybe hadn't worked there? Do you share some of the same intimate, some of the same details that some of these other folks are sharing, or any insights that you might have?
Yeah, no, absolutely. All great points on how to pivot. And we do have some folks that have done that successfully. It does, just being candid, it does become tough as you get further along. But I think the best way to do it is just start by making one connection with an organization, somebody in your city, whatever that may be. And taking it from there. And a good way to get involved are seasonal opportunities, volunteer opportunities, which have all been mentioned. And maybe it's not something you exactly want to do, but if you know that you want to break into sports, just be adaptable. Just say, hey, you know what? This exact opportunity, this volunteer opportunity may not be specifically what I want to do, but let's make the best of it. Let's see where it can lead. And if you go in with that open mind, just attitude going into it and be adaptable, you're gonna likely end up with something as you keep pushing. So
awesome. All right, well, we'll move on to our next question. This is I like this question. This is a good one. How's everybody getting, how are the teams, how are you guys getting creative with audience and fan engagement right now? Maybe how does it look different? Brad, we can start with you guys, but anything that the Titans are doing to help with that fan engagement, to make that, as good as you can during these times?
Right. Yeah. No. So those are certainly some things we've looked at, and we are still preparing to welcome fans to our building this fall. But that being said, here during the off season, some cool things we've done for our suite partners. We've offered opportunities for them to engage and hear directly from some of our players, from Mike Keith, from Coach Vrabel, John Robinson, our general manager. Those guys are great with that. So that's been excellent to be able to offer those opportunities, and then, potentially looking at some other things in the future. But yeah, you have to get creative. I've joined a group on LinkedIn that was spearheaded by a couple of people with the premium department of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there's been a lot of good ideas shared from across all kinds of different teams across the four or five sports. So yeah, it's been great to kind of get some perspective in there, but yeah, certainly a unique time. And like I said, adaptability is key, especially now, and anything that we can bring value to, whether that's virtually or however we're going to be able to display it, we're looking to do it. So
awesome. Daniela, what are you guys doing over at the Preds to make the fans excited as possible?
Definitely. Just like Brad and the Titans, we've done a lot of fun things over Zoom, a lot of fun social promotions. We've had our players get involved. They've taken some fun video clips of how they're staying, active and what they're doing at home while quarantining. So we've done a lot of fun stuff with that. With our clients, we've, just done different things ranging from Zoom happy hours to emails once a week of what's going on with us, and just kind of fun stuff like that. A lot of really cool different social promotions that we wouldn't normally be doing during the regular season. For example, we had National Wine Day back in May. So we did a fun little social promotion with that, and we're trying to target everybody, not just people who are already Nashville Predators fans, but maybe if you're not a Preds fan, you like wine. So you want to get engaged in our social promotion. So yeah, we've just been experimenting and doing everything that we possibly can. So
yeah, and I think somebody mentioned this in one of the other questions, but kind of what you're hinting at too. This opportunity may open the door to people who, hey, I wasn't really a huge Preds fan before this, but I do like wine, and now I've taken a new interest in it. Taylor, how about you guys? What's the Sounds? What are you guys doing over there at the Sounds to do your best?
Yeah. So I mentioned our private batting practice groups, which has gone over extremely well, and I think it showed us like the demand is so great that maybe this is something we continue year round whenever we have field availability, like even during the season. You never know. The beauty of minor league baseball is there's a lot of idea sharing and stealing. So some other teams have done like turned their infield into a socially distanced restaurant, and they serve dinner like on their infield every night. And some teams turned their outfield into a drive-in movie theater, and they were driving cars onto the field to watch a movie on their scoreboard. Other things we did here is when the minor league season got delayed, we had a virtual season. So all of our games were being played on MLB The Show, and we had a lot of fan interaction on social media, and that was really well received. We were working on an alternate season at one point. When the minor league season got canceled, we were going to have a bunch of major league free agents playing games here at the ballpark. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pull that off just due to forces outside of our control. But we're always trying to get creative and do fun things. And outside of this private BP we're doing, we're looking at a lot of other fun stuff. Hopefully for the fall, we'll see what comes of it. But always idea sharing and just trying to see what we can do.
What's I just out of curiosity, what does that private batting practice entail? Is it small groups? Like what are some of the details on that? I want to go.
I get to make a sales pitch now. This is great. Brad already booked his group. It's groups of 6 to 15 people. You get the whole field to yourself for an hour. We pitch to you through a pitching machine. You can play catch in the outfield. You can shag fly balls. It's $35 per person. Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays it's $45 a person. But you have the whole field to yourself, and it's been very well received so far.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's pretty cool. All right. So Becca, how about you guys? What's the soccer club doing over there to engage fans?
A lot of the same stuff as everybody else. Just the players are making, special content. We had the What's Cooking with Walker Zimmerman, which he would, cook a meal on Friday nights on Instagram Live, which was kind of fun. And then we had a fitness challenge. Ironically enough, if you calculate the miles from Nashville to Orlando, the flight miles, it's I think 617 miles from here to there. So we had the 615 challenge. So you walked to Orlando or you jogged to Orlando over a month in a group of like 4 to 6 people. So that was a coincidence, but it was a nice one. Then for me, ironically enough, I don't know if I've ever considered myself, this is terrible for me to say, to be a sports fan. I like going to the games. I like the entertainment aspect of it, but I don't follow sports. So it's been fun for me to say like, hey, guess what, guys? We're going to try to sell to people like me. So just like Daniela was saying, like the one thing, I would have been like, oh, let's go check that out. So for me, it was a way for me to interact with the influencers, to get them to come on our pages and do different things and promote more of the music community in Nashville. Right now I'm doing like a DJ of the month. So like these people that no one's really heard of, these up and comers, will create a playlist for us, do a little write up, and kind of expose them. And not just country music. We've had a rap guy from Nashville, a pop guy from Nashville. So it's just trying to make sure everybody knows that while country music is a big population, we are Music City. We're not just country music. So trying to engage these fans that are not necessarily, your diehard soccer fans that are going to be there, your supporter groups, but it's people who just want to come and have a good time and be entertained. So that's a lot of what we're trying to do right now.
Yeah. And we actually got a couple individual questions. And Becca, we got one for you. So this is the sports soccer club's first year, inaugural year. Obviously not what was expected. So how have you and your coworkers consistently or constantly had to adjust, and what are some of the challenges that you didn't see coming that you had to overcome? maybe some specific examples if you have any, what that looks like?
Yeah, well, I mean, after our first game, we were all extremely excited. Putting almost 60,000 in Nissan Stadium for our first game was quite the high. So what was it, like a month later, we're all being sent home. So I spent a lot of time on Instagram and social media trying to figure out what everybody else was doing and maybe what some interests were, or how can we, switch gears and change that to relate it to the club somehow. So it's been very interesting, and even more interesting, we have our first home game this weekend, right? And it'll also be the first National SC home game I haven't been to since we started, minus the very, very first game. So it's very strange, and everybody's kind of like a little salty about it, but not really. I mean, we all understand what we have to do. But yeah, it's really been hard to stay creative for me. I know, like, I feed off of other people's creativity, or just like having real conversations with people, or, just walking down the street, going to the park and seeing something. So having to be in this quarantine has been difficult just to stay motivated and keep ideas fresh. So, yeah, I mean, we're trying to do a variety of different things to keep people engaged, but hopefully if that's coming back to play, we've definitely seen an improvement in all our interactions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Daniela, we got a similar question for you guys. So like the soccer club, the Prez season stopped, and then started back up again. So how have you constantly had to adjust, and what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned during an abnormal season like this?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's definitely been a big change going from working in the office at Bridgestone to working in my little apartment home. During the season, a normal game day starts around 8 a.m. and sometimes we won't leave until nearly midnight. So I've definitely been able to catch up on my sleep. That's been one plus. But throughout the entire pandemic, we were hoping to have our team get back on the ice as soon as possible. Once playoffs started, we were ready to, keep playing and play all summer long. But unfortunately, we did not play for as long as we had hoped. So with the change in the season, we had to basically change up all of our different business plans. We had to change how we would market for the upcoming season, how we would offer credit to our corporate partners and our season ticket holders from the games that they had missed, and basically just how we can continue to retain our clients. I would say the biggest lesson I've learned is it's important to adapt and be open to change because in today's world, everything's really changing.
Awesome. And another kind of question for everybody, I'd love to hear maybe Brad, we can kick off with you, your perspective on this, but how does the unknown on whether a season will happen or not, and now in this case, we kind of obviously know the Titans are going to play, but no fans right on, but how has that impacted sales, ticket sales, maybe just sales in general? Like how are you guys planning for that unknown factor? What does that look like over there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very good question, and something that I don't think anybody in our industry was really preparing for prior to all of this. But you kind of learn as you go. And I think one of the biggest things during this sales wise is just you gotta listen to what you're hearing from your customers. You gotta listen to what you're hearing from your clients, and take that and get to know them better. I think that's been one of the best things during this time, to have a little bit of a pause, because, while we are an outdoor stadium, suite-wise, we're busy really almost throughout the year, because, we begin hosting events sometimes as early as April, and then the Titan season comes. We have concerts all summer, various events scattered throughout. So, we're have a little bit more downtime now to spend more time getting to know these people, because sometimes it's hard to get to do that during events too, because you're just running around. It's crazy. They have their clients there. You don't want to be bothering them necessarily. So it's been good to get to know people, listen more. And sales wise, I mean, there's still an element of, having to make a connection with people during this time. You may not have, new news necessarily to share, but, it's good to just, shoot a quick note to somebody, whether that's text, call, email, and a lot of people are working from home, so they're around, they're available, and take it from there. And new sales wise, I mean, I still think there's an element of prospecting that needs to be done. You certainly don't want to come across as tone deaf at all during this time, but one approach that I've taken here recently that's been successful is just put together an email, basically just being honest, saying, look, I'm not sure what, the rest of this year is going to hold, what position you may be in, but I'd love to set up a call, learn a little bit more about how you guys are navigating some of the challenges during this time, and just take it from there. And I think those small wins, just even getting somebody to accept a meeting, take a call, reply to an email, I think you got to look at it that way. And if anything beyond there, if you're able to continue to grow that relationship and that does turn into a sale, all the better. But I think you just got to take it day by day and control what you can control. And those are some of the ways you can do it. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, coming from the Sports Council's perspective, our big event is the Music City Bowl, and whether
Right.
it's our ticket holders, sponsors, we've just had to be like, hey, honesty is the best approach. We try our best not to exaggerate anything. It's like, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. We have found from our members, from our sponsors, from, most everybody has stayed, as engaged as they can. Whether that's through attending our events or financially supporting us where they can. So, I think people are kind of doubling down. If you're a Titans fan before this, you're even more of a Titans fan now. Anybody else? I know not everybody here works in that sales role, but does anybody else want to speak on that a little bit? What kind of challenges maybe they've had in that sales piece? If not, we got a couple other questions as well. Okay. Well, looking back at, we got another audience question here, looking back at kind of the people looking for jobs in the sports world. And Brad, we'll kick off with you on this one. What are the needed skills for someone, say in marketing or a sales position in sports? Are there any specific software knowledges they need to have? Are there any certifications they might need to have? Any soft skills that you think would be good to have on a resume or be known?
Sure. Yeah. So prior to breaking into sports, I did not have any experience using any sort of sales software that, I'm sure everybody a part of this call is familiar with, CRM, Artix, those sort of databases. So, you kind of pick those up as you go. If you do have any training on those, as you are beginning to explore jobs in the sports industry, by all means, please mention them. But I think sales wise, you have to come across as, passionate and, just a clear communicator and somebody that can listen. And I think from there, if you're able to demonstrate that, within your first initial meetings with whomever it is that you're looking to connect with a team or organization, that'll kind of shine through and carry through. And you got to be coachable. You got to just, be willing to take some criticism, take some advice along the way and apply that to what you're doing. Because if someone's going to, kind of pull you to the side at the beginning of your career, especially, and say, hey, this is, notice this, you do this great, but, you may want to try thinking about this or try this for the future. That means they see something in you. They want you to take that advice and get better. So don't look at it as a negative thing. Look at it as a positive and take that and apply that going forward. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I love that coachable piece because especially in an entry-level position, regardless of industry, nobody expects you to come in and know everything. So sometimes it's hard to take criticism, but like you said, maybe it's, hey, you're good at X, Y, and Z, but you need to just work a little bit on A, B, and C, and you can learn and you will. Daniela, any thoughts on that? Anything, in the world that you're working in that would be helpful for folks to know, certification, soft skills, software, anything like that they might want to do preemptively?
Yeah, I would say just for personal skills, if you're good with people, I think that you'll be really great in sports, at least great in my current position. And once again, in corporate partnerships on the service side of things. So a big part of my role is to interact with my clients and, to go to lunches and entertain them at games. So yeah, just be good with people, be yourself. Good communication skills as always. And then a lot of my job's also marketing. So be creative, and even if you have an interesting idea, still throw it out there, because there have been several people in our department and in our organization where, we're like, this probably won't work, but then we end up doing it anyways. So just be yourself and be creative, be determined. Something I learned in college, which I didn't think I'd use as much now, is Excel. I use Excel documents and stuff all the time. So that's a good skill to know.
Yeah, I remember we have I would add to that, know how to use Outlook. We've had interns in the past that you'd be surprised, but would respond to a text, but not an email. So people email at work a lot. So just be aware of that one. Taylor, any thoughts on that? Anything that maybe people can learn before they get a job in sports and would be helpful?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Daniela said. Like, there's a lot of systems and platforms that you're probably going to use on the sales side of things, but in general, you're probably going to get trained on them, or they're pretty quick to pick up, one or the other. Being personable is huge. When I'm interviewing people for sales positions, I just want to see if you can have a normal conversation on the phone. Like, I don't want it to be like I'm grilling you with questions or you're just peppering me with questions. If we can just have a normal conversation, like, that's a huge skill, because you're going to be talking to everyone from like a young family down the street all the way up to CEOs of companies and everything in between. And if you can't have a normal conversation with a wide range of people, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to become good at sales. So that's kind of like the big skill I look for on the sales side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if you're looking for a sales role, got to be able to talk to folks. Yeah, Becca, any insights in your role or you're seeing over there at the soccer club that would be helpful for people to know working in soccer?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything they said. And like Daniela said, being personable is huge. I mean, she's already mentioned, your game days are 8 a.m. to midnight or later sometimes. So you're spending a lot of time with these people you work with. So if you don't click with them, if you don't have that relationship where, you're willing to spend 100 hours a week or more with them, like, you need that personality to like reflect yours and be able to be around. For me, if you know how to use a little Photoshop or Illustrator, we have creative teams, but sometimes, dates and times change. So instead of sending it back to the creative team, just, be able to change it yourself is helpful. And just small things like that. Nothing too crazy in my world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think this is going to be our final question. So thank you, everybody who's attended the event. Thank you to our panelists as well. But another user question here. So how does everybody stay, and we'll kick off with you, Becca, but how do you continue the momentum? How do you stay excited with your job, with your sport, with your club, having to work at home and having to be disconnected in that day-to-day, face-to-face? So what any tips, any thoughts on what that looks like?
Just staying hopeful.
Yeah.
The whole time it was like, oh, we're coming back. Oh, wait, we're not. Oh, we're coming back. Oh, wait a second. So knowing that it was eventually going to happen was something that, we just kept in the back of our minds, and knowing that this is going to be over. We're going to come back and it's going to get back to normal. So just, keeping tried and true on the path and know that it's going to eventually work out and I'll be fine. So you still have to do everything for the fans. They're here. They're ready to party with us. So we know that. So just keep on keeping on.
Stay hopeful. I like it. Well, Taylor, it looks like you actually are at work, at least at the ballpark there. So, but how have you stayed motivated? How have you stayed excited for the team, for everything during this time?
Yeah, I think what Becca said, as far as like, we kept getting updates like, oh, maybe the season will start in 2 weeks. Maybe the season will start in 2 weeks. And every week it was like, we're getting pushed back. We're getting pushed back. But we always had to be ready as if the season was going to start. So it was a little bit different than like the NHL that kind of got through most of their season before this happened. We were just always waiting to find out when opening day was going to be. And then once it got canceled, like, that was a really awful feeling, even though we knew it was coming. But then from that point on, you just have to pivot. And that's how all these other ideas have come up of how we can now turn a non-baseball season into special events and use our venue to the best of our ability. So that's really helped, like, now that we have something to sell. There's a lot of uncertainty in minor league baseball in general moving towards 2021 on top of all this. So it's just continuing to stay creative and pivoting to different events to kind of get us through whatever this period of time is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniela, how are you staying hopeful? How are you staying motivated over there?
Yeah, I mean, we all know sports will be back hopefully very soon. So we've been working on things that we can do once sports are back. So we're going to make sure that we have the best marketing plan and the best plans in place everywhere. So once sports are back, we'll be ready and excited for it. Also, I mean, we've just really been working on our relationships with our clients. We're really happy to say that right now our relationships are honestly stronger than they've ever been with our corporate partners and our season ticket holders and our fans, just because, I mean, we're being very transparent with them and we're kind of all in this together, you know, like we all want sports back and there's that uncertainty there. But yeah, just working on relationships with clients and planning for when hockey is back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the relationships piece is huge. You know, obviously when this first started for us too, weren't sure if we would get anybody who would want to stay a member of the Sports Council, but a lot of them have, and it you know, it means a lot when people are, you know, maybe a little financially strapped, but still see being a member of the Sports Council, being a ticket season holder as something important, and they want to continue to support that. Great, and Brad, we'll wrap it up with you. How are you guys staying motivated? What's that look like for you and the Titans?
Yeah, absolutely. So while we found out last week that we will not be able to host fans for our first regular season game against the Jaguars in September, we are staying optimistic about a great schedule that we have not only in October but rolling into November and December. So you know, just continuing to stay positive there and keep our clients, keep our fans in the loop as much as possible, and continue to grow and strengthen those relationships. In the meantime, another thing that's been great, just keeping me motivated, is getting to collaborate with a lot of different people across the industry during this that I've never really had that opportunity to, because we're all moving at a million miles an hour. So it's been cool. If, you know, look, not every day is going to be the best. Sometimes maybe you need to pick me up and you can connect with an old colleague or maybe even a new colleague, and they're saying, hey, this is how we're handling this. And you get a fresh outlook, fresh approach to the situation, and just take it from there. But yeah, that's how I've tried to stay positive and stay motivated. And really in sports, if you're not, it's going to be tough to last a long time. I think you got to have some of that built within you too, but you know, some days you may have to lean on some of your teammates, some of your coworkers, some of your colleagues across the industry to help pick you up. And I think just in sports, we have a really great network of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, panelists. I think normally if we were all in person at this time, I would say give you guys a round of applause, but maybe we'll do a virtual round of applause. But again, thank you guys tremendously for your time today. I know you guys, everybody's staying busy. Everybody's trying to do their best. So we greatly appreciate having you. For all those who attended this event, please visit nationalsports.com. Consider joining, being a member. We would greatly appreciate it. We have a very packed schedule coming down the line once sports do reopen. Everything from the SEC basketball tournament, the Music City Bowl, Rock and Roll Marathon. We have a figure skating event coming up in 2022. So you can check all that out at nationalsports.com. Again, thank you everybody for attending, and we will sign off.